Welcome to the Dr. Leadership Podcast, where the DR stands for Driving Results. Our focus is weekly conversations around life and business relationships and the important leadership qualities for both. These concepts and qualities will help you drive positive results in both your business and personal lives. A weekly connection point to help business leaders develop individual contributors, managers, and executives on your teams. We also will tie in concepts around family focus and life lessons to help you drive success in your personal life. Welcome to the Dr. Leadership Show. Let's get after it. Hey everybody, welcome to the Dr. Leadership Show. The doctor is in another week to get together. Very excited about this. I mean, this thing has really taken some wings the last few weeks, getting some positive feedback, getting some constructive criticism, gets my juices flowing. It's just exciting to be here with you again today. We talked about some leadership skills around communication the last couple weeks, and it's very, very important in building a culture to have great communication. Today, this week, I'd like to step into really the bedrock of, or the foundation, a key component in the foundation of building a good team. And that's a small little word called accountability. Now, accountability is taking credit or raising your hand whether positive or negative results have happened. And it's a lost art. I've been doing this for a long time. And growing up with World War II parents, accountability, and World War II parents that own their own company, accountability was the bedrock of how our family was raised. And it's not that you need to fall on the sword, the proverbial sword, in every situation in life, but accountability is something that your team is going to need to be able to build a lasting culture and a successful culture. Because without accountability, blame slips in, sneaks in, underperformance will happen, finger pointing, not constructive conversations, but destructive conversations. You've never seen a winning sports team at the highest level. Super Bowl champion, NBA champion, College World Series champion, college softball championship, any sport where every member of the team is not accountable to their position, their job, or to the others on the team. Think of the military as a great example. Again, military historian here. Think of the military and their approach to accountability. It is a sight to behold. Everyone has a job to do. They hold themselves accountable. Zero mistakes are acceptable because you got people's lives in your hands. Now, the business environment and your personal environment at home, accountability doesn't have people's lives at stake, but you do have the ability to build a good team and to surround yourself with positive influences and be successful. Accountability is a big part of that. So there's an old story about accountability that goes something like that. The story is this. This is a story about four people named everybody, somebody, anybody, and nobody. There was an important job to be done, and everybody was asked to do it. Everybody was sure somebody would do it. Anybody could have done it, but nobody did it. Somebody got angry about that because it was everybody's job. Everybody thought anybody could do it, but nobody realized that everybody wouldn't do it. It ended up that everybody blamed somebody when nobody did what anybody could have done. Now, nice little play on words. But when you are in a business environment as a leader, the key, we talked about good communication, being clear, building relationships. A great way to destroy a good relationship is not to be accountable to one. If you let people slide by without raising their hand, without stepping forward when something goes wrong, or if you don't praise those that are deserved of the credit on something, they were accountable because of them, success happened. It can be a fast train to loser land there. So accountability is a bedrock, right? That's what we want to talk about today. Is how do you build that in your team? The other reason accountability is so important to you as a leader is your company is entrusting you to deliver results. Excuses don't roll uphill very well. I don't know about everyone else's experience over the years, but sometimes reps or subject matter experts or support people might be able to slough some things off. But as soon as it gets to the manager level and up into the leadership and executive level of a company, coaches on good teams, losing records cause coaches' jobs, not players' jobs. Now, quarterback might be replaced in a football game, et cetera. I understand that. But in the grand scheme, the leader of the team, the coach, the executive, is going to be held accountable no matter what. So to ensure that you aren't the only one with your thumb on the table for someone to whack when something goes wrong, you have to drive a culture where accountability is critical. The delivering results as a leader can be a number of things, right? It can be hitting the number. It can be developing your people. It can be lots of different things. It can be driving strategies, creating integrity and honesty. Those are all things that you need to be accountable for as a leader. You also need to be accountable to your team. You need to provide feedback up into your organization and down from your organization. So to be accountable to your team when there's a problem that they're bringing to you and they give resolution ideas. Remember, we talked about a monkey on your back. Don't let them come in with a problem without some ideas of resolution. If it has bothered them so much that they need to bring the problem to you and you've asked them for, how would you fix it, Jim? Or how would you fix it, Sue? Once you get that feedback, you're accountable now to deliver that upstream. You're accountable to your team if there's interaction issues, biases, unprofessional conduct, insubordination, not playing with others well in the sandbox. You need to make sure that as a leader, you never let the accountability cornerstone slip in all aspects of developing that good team. You need to get in the trenches with them. That's the other thing about accountability is when teams see you and team members and your individual contributors see that you're willing to get in there with them and you're willing to raise your hand when something goes wrong right along with them, that goes a long, long way in the world for building great culture and building those relationships. So again, from prior episodes, we talked about how squadrons or platoons of military personnel, they can either love you and go over the hill with you and fellowship and follow you, or they can despise you and sit back and let you take all the shots. And that's critical in this thing is you've got to give them the demonstration of you're there with them. Keep unproductive things away from them as a leader. Be accountable up, but don't let, how you can be accountable to your teams is don't let just time wasters come at them from those on high. You have to be responsive to your leader as a leader, right? To the senior staff of the organization, the executive management team, whatever you want to call it. But do play defense for your team as well. Protect them. Have their backs. You know what this does? This builds trust. And trust is just absolutely awesome when you have it in a team environment. Tom Brady trusts the receivers to run the right route. Tom Brady trusts the lineman to give him time to make the reads in the pass, right? The captain of a ship trusts the person running the rudder, running the engine room. That's how a well-oiled machine works. The other thing that building accountability, building trust, and all of that does is it disallows blame shifting. So human nature does not like people to, people naturally don't really love to have to admit that they did something wrong. But it is the biggest sign of business maturity that you can have, is to step forward and say, ma'am, this one's on me. Sir, this one's on me. And it's a lost art. Today, in today's society, it's on the news every night. Someone else is blaming someone else, or everyone's blaming someone else for what's wrong in the world. Or I'm not successful because of this, or I'm not successful because of that. Woe is me. My mom used to say, no room for pity parties. It's a great line. There's no time for pity parties. My college kids now, or out of college kids, when they were young, something would come up where I'm holding them accountable. One child has done something that the other hasn't. So I put an impact. My wife and I would put an impact on the child that was accountable for the issue. They weren't taking self-accountability, but they were accountable for the issue. And you'd put some sort of, you're grounded, you don't get to play with this for so much time, the overnight doesn't happen tonight, you don't get ice cream, whatever it is. Don't turn into the parent that gives them everything. Give them all they need and 10% of what they want, and you're going to have pretty good kids. Hold them accountable for other things in life, doing their chores, cleaning their rooms, being responsible, not picking on their siblings, being polite. You know, my kids always played great away games. They always looked like the saints and the princesses when they went to other people's homes. Oh, your kids are so great. And then they come home and they're bouncing off the walls. I think we all experience that. I love my children with all my heart, but they need to be accountable to those good behaviors when they're at home too. But back to my story on my kids, one of them's in trouble and you'd lay down the law and they would say, that's not fair. You know what I said? That's where you get corn dogs and cotton candy. Life isn't fair. Accountability builds character, and it's critical in a team environment as well. Build it inside your family environment, build it inside your work environment. You're going to have successes that you don't even think are possible because of accountability. People take on the roles they're given, run through the walls. If it doesn't go well, they raise their hand. Sorry, I won't let it happen again. And those are the people you want on your team. You don't want people that blame others. I'll tell you a story. I'm going to tell you a couple stories, actually. When I first started out in this business, there was a manager that was responsible for myself and my teammates. And we're going to call him Tim Feinstein. It's not his real name, but it works for the story. So Tim Feinstein was all the things I brought up in episode 1 on why not to be a leader. Self-centered, narcissistic, all about them. We had a team, or a company softball team and basketball team, right? Played in the city leagues. Tim Feinstein was a ball hog. Tim Feinstein took 30 shots a game, made 3. When he made those 3, he acted like he was Michael Jordan. Like that's what's, I'm the greatest ever. 6'2" and would go into the paint against 6'5" guys all day long, getting his shots blocked. But man, he was the best ever. Just ask him. Well, there was this time that Tim Feinstein was working with me. And back in the day, we had to deliver our own equipment, right? So I have a $30,000 piece of equipment on, for those of you that have been in the printing business for a while, the old MF copier business, you would have a Furno salesmaker cart. And they were basically like what the people at the morgue, the coroners, used. You have a body on it and you see them, the wheels collapse, or the ambulances today, the wheels collapse and you slide the thing into the ambulance or into the van or into the hearse. And that's what we used to have our equipment on. And we were picking up a piece of equipment from a demo, and we were in an alleyway and between 2 big buildings. And you came out of there was kind of a ramp out of one building down into the alleyway, so it angled down and then flattened out. And I was putting part of the piece of equipment, the expensive part was on the cart. I was wheeling another piece of the equipment, just an input or output piece, setting it up, lifting it up, putting it in the back of the van. So I'm looking through the front of my window as I'm doing this. And before I came out, we'd got off the elevator, and I turned to Tim Feinstein and I said, listen, wait for me to get on the other end of this cart as we come down this ramp. He goes, gotcha. So I go around. He's busy thinking about himself, working on his hair or something, I'm sure. And I'm lifting the thing up in the back. And here comes Tim down that ramp, walking, pulling the cart behind him. And it's kind of pushed him down the ramp. And as soon as that thing hit the ramp to the flat spot, That cart stood up on end. That $30,000 piece of equipment slid down off that off that Furno salesmaker. Boom! Glass goes flying, covers burst, um, toner goes flying everywhere. Suddenly, we've got a $30,000 oops in the middle of the alleyway. So he is starting to make excuses quickly. Well, why did that happen? Something happened with the cart. Oh my goodness! And I said, this is why I told you to wait. So we load this thing up in the back, put it back on the cart, get it in. I'm putting garbage bags, lawn bags that I had in the car underneath the cart so I didn't get crap and leaking fluids and everything all over my Chevy Astro van. Absolute lady magnet, as you can imagine, with the center seats out so I could move copiers around. We drive back to the office and I walk in, and here's where the accountability piece of the story comes in. Tim Feinstein sees the owner is out back smoking when we pull up. Sees the owner. He gets out of the van. I'm getting out of the van. His words are this. The owner's name was Bill. Bill, we had an accident and we dropped this copier and we broke it. We. That's not accountable. So I was furious. But what I didn't do was say wasn't me. All I did was put that little bullet in my brain about what Tim Feinstein was really all about. This was not the first or only thing that this guy did that showed he wasn't accountable, wasn't a team player, wasn't a good leader. He was a ball hog, right? That's not accountable to the team. There's other players on the team too. Move the rock, get to the open man, softball, swing for the fence every time, pop up to the second baseman or long fly ball every time with people on base. Try to hit a single, Tim. Come on, man. Be accountable to the team. Accountability, when not taken seriously or not utilized, when someone blames others, that causes consternation and a breakdown of the team spirit right away. I was upset from then on. Now, the other thing that happened was my own family bought a piece of equipment. Tim Feinstein helped me drop it off. We picked up the paperwork, came back. Owner was in the back. Hey, Bill, we got the order. We got the order. My dad signed the paperwork. I appreciate it. Didn't matter to me. But these are the little things. It was all about him being portrayed or being seen as this wonderful leader, great performer. He was also, remember what I said, don't be a leader if you want to take all the credit. If you want to be in charge of all the deals, if you want to be in every sales cycle and control every deal, be an individual contributor. Don't be a leader. You have to let your people fail for their future. You have to let them learn by their mistakes. You can't save them every time. And you can't handle the bandwidth required to be the best salesperson on every single deal across a team environment. We got the deal. Also, I talked about the big order where it took 63 appointments for me to bring the biggest order down ever inside my first organization, Pella Windows. I came home, came back to the office with the PO for several $100,000. I mean, over $500,000 in production equipment back in those days, which meant over 50 pages per minute. And he took the PO from me and went in and said, "Look what we got today." Again, I don't need the accolades, but I certainly don't want someone else taking the credit. It's just a killer on a leader that always have to be perceived as it was them because of their enlightenment to the members, because of their grand mastery of the skills that they are trying to bless the meager salespeople below them are always taking the credit. Just a terrible, terrible deal. So I had all these kind of banked up in my head, these situations, and it's probably 6 months later. This is why the name Tim Feinstein works, because the name had the same letter components to it. And we're sitting there in a team meeting, and he's asking now for the 6 reps around the table for our office location, this area where the office covered, to buy into him. And this is going to take a team effort, and we're going to hit this big number because he had a bonus on the line. There were some extra dollars in play for us. It was about hitting this big sprint to the end of our fiscal year. And at the end, he used that old, I don't want to call it corny, but the old analogy used, there's no I in team. You know what I immediately said to the entire office? Yeah, but there's three in Tim Feinstein. Now, talk about getting some laughs. He was red as red could be. And I stood up and walked out of the office and went back grabbing a soda, cola. And he comes up and goes, "Hey, man, that was funny, but that wasn't very cool." And I said, "Hey, man, I just call him as I see him," and walked out to head out to my day. And the other people, we used to meet to grab a cold one towards the end of the day, or we'd maybe that week, but they were still in hysterics, going, "Man, talking about calling a spade a spade, that was absolutely awesome." I wish I never had to do that. That wasn't my goal that day. Wasn't to pick on Tim Feinstein, but that is what's going to happen to your team if you don't share in the gain and if you don't share in the blame. Those that are accountable for wins should get the accolades. Those that are accountable for issues should step forward and use their business maturity to take it on. That is what develops great teams. Everyone will stand behind you. You're going to look at this. Think of the field goal kickers in football. Lonely position, hero or zero. There is no way to hide from the accountability if the snap is good. If they make it, it's high fives all the way around. Everybody knows they won the game. They made the bucket. They made the field goal. If they miss it, there's no hiding from accountability. But what you'll see out of those great teams is they realize that everybody knows who's accountable for the miss, and you will see the defense come up to that kicker first because the team is solid. The coaches build a tremendous team fellowship and camaraderie and spirit. They're going to come up and say, "It's all right. We'll get the ball back. We're going to give you another shot. You're going to win this thing later." How many times have you seen a game the kicker misses two and they get the redemption shot and they come back and they make it? And then the team carries them off on their shoulders. The team isn't carrying them off going, "Yeah, but you screwed up twice already today." They're going, "Doesn't matter. You were accountable. You dropped your head. We raised you back up." That's what teams are about. But accountability is a cornerstone, right? Trust is a cornerstone. Camaraderie is a cornerstone. Your willingness to help each other in high times and low times is critical. And as a leader in these organizations, you have to drive that team spirit continuously to make sure it happens that way. The other thing I would say is that you've got to develop your team members to be self-accountable and make sure that they feel that way too about themselves, right? You don't have to be the only one accountable. You got to have the team members do it. I'm going to tell you one other story. I'm going to show you how I'm going to tell you how I tried to prove my point, and half the team got it and half the team didn't get it. And they weren't all my team members. My team members realized right away what I was trying to do. Those that were supporting us did not get it. In my business today, we utilize subject matter experts and consulting people and engineers to develop strategies and to create workflows and to develop the applications that are going to drive data. And we had a very, very large opportunity we were working on. Brought in a sales group that is responsible for a specific software solution that we can customize and develop, and brought them into an engagement. We were placing some big output engines, right? Big solution with hardware. And we said, "Hey, they want to go all in on your software." We've done some work with them out at a demonstration facility. Basically, we had lined this group up. We're going to hand you this $600,000 piece of software business. And one of the things that happens with this group more often than it should, or is perceived that way by my staff, is that they miss the little things. So we put together a statement of work and put this software package together, and they met with the client a half dozen times to make sure they had everything covered. I wanted everything covered, right? We can't screw this up. $6.5 million transaction. This piece is going to be critical for the entire relationship. We were replacing a competitive workflow and equipment. Good customer of ours, great relationship, but this was the the mother lode of what we didn't have. I mean, it quadrupled the business we had inside the organization. And we get to the time to putting the paperwork together to send to the customer. And we realize that this application they've built won't print to half of the devices we are putting in because they aren't transforming it to a file type that would work. So in other words, they were trying to send diesel fuel down the line, and this piece of equipment required unleaded gasoline. Not going to work without it. And the emails start flying. How did we miss this? And this group starts to point fingers. Now, mind you, they did all the discovery on how to build this out. They sent notes upstream to their pricing group that I was copied in on. It literally said, this is going to have a cost, but it's not our fault. That was one of the worst communications I'd ever been privy to in a team environment. Zero accountability. Their leader, those engineers and subject matter experts, jumped on the bandwagon. Yeah, I don't know how the sales team missed this. I send back a note. Wait a second here, not trying to blame anybody, but how was this missed? We know that we have to have unleaded gasoline for these devices. How was this missed in the statement of work? And by the way, there's job responsibilities here. This part is yours. If it was missed, I'm not angry about the expense. I want to know why it was missed so we can fix it going forward. They stood their ground. Not our fault. Literally. Stated, typed, rolled up. I had had enough. So I stepped forward and I said, listen, I'm the executive sponsor on this. I know I'm not the engineer. I'm not the subject matter expert, but I'm going to take the blame for this one. This one's my fault because I should have caught it. And I should have been more clear, and I should have held everyone to a higher standard to make sure this didn't happen. You know what I got back from those subject matter experts and those engineers? Nada. I don't need a thank you, but it was a character discovery moment for me, what I'm working with on that side of the fence. And it was very disappointing to me that I have people that are part of my grand team that work like that. I got from their boss, thanks. Not a, I think we all had a piece of this. We do need to work better to make sure this doesn't happen again. Just got a thanks. Thanks for putting your thumb on the table. So then I go and I take $75,000 worth of gross profit out of the transaction because they can't do it without charging and bringing on other solution sets into this. It affects my direct team member and compensation because of it. I worked on that in the background to make sure he wasn't hurt. Came up with some other strategies to clean it up. But lack of accountability there. That rep that was impacted in this transaction on that is going to think twice before bringing that group back in. Is there another solution we can build that doesn't require their help? How can I do it without them? Because you only get one swing in the plate of team spirit. So in this grand thing of leadership, in this grand thing of individual contributor, direct sales reps, always be accountable and always jump in with your team members when after they've taken accountability. I always like to follow up with, hey, we all are a part of this team, right? Bring that team camaraderie back together because they've checked the box on their cornerstone of integrity by saying I'm accountable. As a leader, be accountable. When something doesn't go right that you asked or you've pressed down, be accountable that it was a bad idea. Be accountable that the company not let them down, but didn't do everything right here too. Everyone makes mistakes. That's okay. Forgiveness is a cornerstone too. Correcting actions to make sure things don't happen again. I've made more mistakes than I've made good decisions in my career. Remember, you avoid mistakes through experience. You know how you gain experience? By making a lot of mistakes. That's where it comes from. So don't be afraid to step in, step up, and say, my bad. What I have to say on accountability today. Step up, show up, dress up, be accountable for your actions, positive, negative. So, hey, another episode in the books here. I want to remind everybody we can be reached at www.drleadership.results.com. Would love you to go out and check out the site, talk about our services out there, subscription models, join in. Lots of really cool special content, interviews, stories not suitable for work. Just joking, but some really good stories out there. Leaders from all sorts of industries will be uploading on a weekly basis. It's worth your time. I promise. It's nuggets from other people. I promise it's worth it. Small investment, big results from it, big gain. And the other thing is our email is drleadershipresults@gmail.com. Feel free to drop me a note, questions, answers, feedback. Hey, you missed this. What about this? Would love any type of interaction I can get from you. And then, man, for those last parting words, as I always say, remember this: you're awesome. Keep that shit up.